each episode of the 411, I'll be catching up with a business leader who, to put it bluntly, has created a shit-hot place to work. We're going to be digging deep to understand what that means and how they've managed to achieve that. So if you're a business owner either going through growing pains at the moment or wanting to stand out in a crowded marketplace, then this podcast is for you. So welcome to today's episode of the 411. Today I'm joined by Nathaniel, co-founder of Surv. Surv are the leading software provider for the energy efficiency sector. So welcome to today. Really good to get to chat to you. I know we've worked with you for a few years. What I'd like to find out a little bit to start with is a little bit about Surv, so a bit of an intro to both Surv and yourself, if that's okay.
No problem, thanks Claire, good intro there, loved it.
I got it right, just about.
Yeah, got it right. So yeah, at Surv, we are, as you said there, we provide software solutions into the energy efficiency, renewables and retrofit sector. So we're a full end-to-end solution. It's like that compliance and workflow management, so it's data collection out in the field, organised in the cloud. Okay. So it takes care of all that. I won't say boring, but necessary compliance journey and organising all the data into the right format and documentation and that kind of thing, because a lot of the area that we deal in is government programme energy efficiency work, so as you can imagine, a lot of red tape, a lot of T's need to be crossed and I's dotted. Yeah. So that's kind of our core offering at the moment. We do services as well, which has been kind of a new thing for us over the last 18 months. And that's kind of selling services into our existing customer base. Okay. It's opened up a few more opportunities for us, so kind of products and services now, which has been quite good progression for us over the last 18 months. Okay,
and what about just really briefly your background before you set up Surv? What had you done career-wise before?
I think there'd always been a bit of an entrepreneurial streak in there, so our family had come from a background of hospitality businesses, so in cafes, restaurants, that kind of thing. Right. Yeah, I might have been the black sheep of the family, went and did an engineering degree. Loved solving problems, was always you know, on the Meccano sets and the Lego as a kid. So my background is engineering, mechanical. Then I went into architecture in like late 2000s, just as like all the building regs were changing towards more energy efficiency design. Okay. That kind of piqued the interest. There was a crossover there between engineering and architecture. So I ended up in the energy efficiency industry. Worked in there for a number of years, working with architects, designers, designing sustainable buildings like commercial and residential stuff. Did a bit of lecturing at Blackpool and Fart College in their engineering department because they wanted to start teaching more about sustainability and energy efficiency. And then kind of got introduced to this industry through, what were we doing? We were doing some training with Blackpool and Fart College, training up some of their contractors that work with and relationships with as domestic energy assessors, just as this whole energy efficiency scheme was changing in 2012, 2013, and just kind of got involved there really, consulting with some of the people who were installers of energy efficient measures. And it kicked off from there, and then there was an idea born out of that work that became what is now known as Surv, the software platform.
So that's my next question, because a lot of people who will be listening to this could well have an idea or a concept, but actually making it into a viable business is you know, the hard work. I've heard lots of times it's easy to come up with ideas, it's much harder to implement them. So talk us through how that concept became a viable business.
It still doesn't get any easier to execute on those ideas. Like you say, ideas are 10 a penny, aren't they? Everyone has ideas, you just need one good one that transfers into a business model, I guess. So from that point of view, we just identified a gap in the market, again a solution for that gap, which was turning something that was very paper-based at that time. People going door knocking, filling out survey forms and then sending them through to the contractor. We basically took that process and digitised it. That was where my business partner Al came into it, because we'd worked on a couple of mutual ideas previous to that, and we were introduced through mutual contact. And it was just a very simple idea, you know, taking away that paperwork element and digitising it. Now, the people weren't really au fait with technology 10 years ago in this industry, because it was so easy prior to that just to go to someone's house, fill in a piece of paperwork, you know, your cavity wall insulation van is down the road, they'll come and do the work this afternoon, and that was that. But in 2013 there was a big legislative and policy change that meant there was a lot more steps in the process. So we found that guys were going out to site, surveyors, collecting information but missing some of the key information, then having to go back to site, it was all done on paper, they were then having to go, they were working remotely, they were then having to go back to offices. So we came up with quite a simple web-based portal that they could go and use an iPad out on site, they could upload that information whilst they were on site, back office would just pick that up, and then that was it, they were in the process then.
And was there anything in the market like that at that point?
Not anything bespoke
No.
like we went to market with. There were other like form builders and Adobe Acrobat type processes, but there was nothing really that was bespoke for that industry, and that's how the idea evolved into what it is today, really.
And I think you said when we caught up a few weeks ago that the concept through to testing, that was a really short time frame, which probably surprised me given maybe my ignorance towards the tech sector and how long it can take for some products to be developed. So that was quite a short time frame, wasn't it?
I think that's where the match made in heaven, I'll call it, between myself and Al came to fruition quite quickly, because Al was a software developer by trade, but quite commercially minded, so it wasn't like your bedroom developer.
Yeah.
He was quite commercially focused, understood the process, and between us we were able to come up with that concept really quick. Go to market, because Al could develop that minimum viable product to get us to market.
Yeah.
We were out within a matter of weeks, and that meant we could then start invoicing, which is normally the hardest part with a startup. Is you spend a lot of money outlaying
especially in
products into that first sort of iteration out into the market without turning over any money.
Yeah.
So we're able to start building quite quickly, and that was really good, and that was it really. We've never looked back since that moment.
And I guess you touched on my next point, and I've spoke about this in previous podcasts, which is who you go into business with is pretty key, isn't it? Now, I'm fortunate that my business partner's my brother, and I always get asked the question in most meetings, do you fall out? Well, occasionally, but actually not very regularly at all, which is a good thing. But ultimately, we've got each other's backs. That blood's thicker than water, isn't it? So in terms of Al and how that relationship's worked over time, has it been bang on from day one? How's it kind of developed, I guess?
Yeah, it totally has, to be fair.
Yeah.
I do feel super lucky with that one, because you hear so many stories of people co-founding businesses, it doesn't work out, you know, you have fallouts and all the rest of it. But myself and Al, it's been, you know, touch wood, since day one we share the same belief system, we're both very driven, you know, same values, so everything is aligned really. You know, we're both willing to put in the work, you know, we both bounce off each other really well. I think the problem we have is that because we're both quite visionary in our approach, is that when it comes down to the execution piece, get bored quite easily. You know, great at starting things, but that complete to finish it, and that's where again you've got to surround yourself with the right people who can execute the vision.
100%.
We're getting there with it, but you know, we just want to be out there creating new ideas and not really getting bogged down with the operation stuff. But
with like the detail part of it.
You've got to wear all hats when you start the business up, because if it's just myself and Al when we started, so you're everything, aren't you? You're a finance person, you know, the ops person, you all parts to every facet of the business, and then as you start growing you bring people in. But it's just been like learning on the job for us. Even now, every day is different. You know, you breaking through that glass ceiling every time, and
which is exciting though, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's like, if you're one way wired, that's that adrenaline, isn't it? And that's what kind of keeps you going, I guess. So, like I said, when we caught up a few weeks ago, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said a lot of your real growth has been in the last few years, hasn't it? 'Cause I think you celebrate being 10 years old imminently in the next few months.
Yeah. So we've actually had 10 years since the idea, so that was last month.
Right.
But then incorporating and starting the business officially is June.
So you're having 2 celebrations.
Yeah.
Effectively. No, don't blame you. So, yeah, big growth last few years. What would you say, if you had to kind of say the top 3-4 things that have really driven that in the last few years and have been those gear shifts, what would they have been?
Bring the right people into the business is a big one.
Okay.
And it still is, and forever will be. I think having the right product fit for the market, even though the market's changed over the last couple of years because we're so regulatory and policy driven, that's another reason why I've had to, you know, keep up to date with all that. there's a few defining factors really. You know, being very focused on the customer requirements, not necessarily what the customer wants, but what they need.
Yeah.
You know, giving it excellent, and I keep banging on about world-class customer service and getting the basics right has stood us really well. Because at the moment there's not much competition in the market, and where we do, I like to think we excel is from an account management and customer facing piece. You know, our customer success team, you can always get hold of someone on the phone. They might not be able to solve the issue or the query straight away, but at least the person will come off the phone feeling that they've been dealt with in the right manner. So it's just getting the basics right really for us, and you've got something to build on there. So there's a few factors there really, but the next phase of growth is going to come from, again, going to the market verticals, but making sure we're bringing the right people in to carry on with that journey for us.
So let's just talk about the right people bit. Obviously, it's a subject close to my heart, given I run a recruitment company. What, I guess, lessons have you learned in that arena? What have you done right? What have you done wrong? Because I think that'd be really interesting, because let's be honest, you know, that is the hardest part of most businesses, isn't it? Is kind of managing, developing, retaining people and getting those hires right in the first place.
Yeah, it's kind of, where do you start with that? I mean, we've made plenty of mistakes over the years. You know, you kind of hire fast because you need a bum on a seat. You know, that often backfires. I think having a more robust process in place now, you know, we set up like a people and culture department 12 months ago, which Bex heads up. We've got a pretty solid process now from that initial sort of candidate applying, whether it's through a recruiter or it's direct through to us. We then go through a series of steps within that process. We do a couple of, like, they're not like personality tests, but just tests to understand, you know, how that person communicates, for example, and how they work, where's their flow, because if they're the right person, Jim Collins thing, you know, you want them on the bus at the end of the day. You know, and someone who will self-manage, and I think everyone needs a process when it comes to recruitment, whether you're doing it internally or you're working externally with recruiters. I know from myself, we've had a couple of really good candidates through over the last few years. But it's about process and just really grilling their hell, nearly said another word there, out of that prospective candidate, because it's got to work for both of you. You know better than anyone, you guys. And I think, and then trust the gut a little bit, because sometimes, and we've done it before, you think, oh, maybe we're sure or not sure, and you kind of take a chance, and then that can backfire. But I think it's just really key. And the stages we've put in place now, and the way we do it, and then how we, you know, depending on what the level of role is, we'll bring them in and sit with the team. You know, we're looking for a head of the services department at the moment, so they'll come in and everyone will be part of that process. Again, it's that sort of test to make sure that the right fit. I think it's hire slow, fire fast. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the reality is, if there was an exact science behind it, everybody would have it nailed. And despite it being our specialism in terms of recruiting for our clients, of course, we've made mistakes as well. So it is, like I said, if there's an exact science, we'd all be doing it. That's the reality, isn't it? And you're in a difficult market as well, aren't you? So you've got challenges internally and externally. You know, across whatever sector it is. You know, we have challenges trying to attract software developers, but it's everything, every sector, every position. We're all in the same boat, so we're kind of all battling for similar talent. And I think one of the points you made to me was almost one of the things you may have done differently was kind of more senior hires earlier. Is that something that you kind of almost in hindsight wish that you'd have done, or? I think so, yeah. I think, again, looking at those early days, you know, because you're in startup mode and you're trying to protect the cash flow, and you are being a bit cautious with some of that decision making. Maybe that does affect where you sort of target hiring. I think, you know, if you were to go again, certainly some key hires you'd bring into the business earlier on. You know, you probably bring someone in from an ops point of view. And so you've got that yin and yang between the visionary and the strategic approach through to, you know, somebody who can then execute on the vision. You know, same with people and culture and HR. You know, a lot of people you speak to, like, oh, you don't need to worry about that until you get to a bigger size. And I think, joking, aren't you? Want that in as early as possible. Agree. So hey, look, you know, crystal ball, if it had been working from day one, would have been great. But we won't be where we are today. You know, with the peaks and troughs and the the woes and tribulations of going through that. You know, it's sort of like no regrets, isn't it? You've got to go through those pain barriers to learn and get out of the comfort zone and grow from it.
And I think that people and culture bit, years gone by, there was almost a bit of a mark where if you got to kind of 100 staff, then you needed in-house HR, and that was when HR was probably viewed as quite operational. Whereas now, I don't think there's ever too early a point, because if you've got a tech product, software, or manufacturing, or a business like ours that's so reliant on people and, you know, the delivery of a service, like that's your, if you've not got the right people and you can't retain them and you're not developing them, you haven't got a business. That's the reality, isn't it? So we say, yes, it depends on sector to a certain degree, but almost the earlier the better, even if it is. We've done a lot of hires recently that have been smaller than the headcount you've got, but that part-time in-house resource so that they make sure they've got it from really early on. So I totally agree with that. And actually, interestingly, at 4, we've taken somebody on last year to focus purely on L&D, but his role is going to evolve into HR, and I probably wish I'd have done that sooner as well, and that's one of our key specialisms. So again, we all live and learn. When we spoke again, probably the topic that you came to life about most, yes, it was the products and the business, but it was all about, I guess, self-care and your personal development. And I think it's a subject that a lot of business leaders know they need to do certain things, the basics of enough sleep, diet, exercise. But the reality is, life is a million miles an hour. When the shit hits the fan, you just revert to, I've got a business to run. And I certainly do that. And I know loads of other business leaders do the same. But it felt like you've got a really good balance. So first of all, what are the tips that you can give to other people in terms of how you've achieved that balance? And could you just share some things that you do which almost make you, I guess, the best version of yourself? Because you've got to be that to be able to perform at your best, haven't you?
Yeah, don't get me wrong, still a work in progress. And what I call balance and what my missus calls balance might be slightly different on the scale. But yeah, I mean, when we first started the business up, it did feel it was 24/7, just myself and Al, and you're just running through walls constantly, you know. And at that time, I just started dating my what is now Mrs. And I think she was a bit like, wow, what's this about? You know. So I've had to learn to sort of, you know, drop things instead of working late at night, particularly the last few years now, you know, because I was heading for a burnout. You're just working.
I think
all
you said
those,
you were really nearly there, weren't you?
Pretty much, yeah, because you think back now, it's like, right, you're working 18-hour days, pretty much almost 7 days a week where you can. You're constantly on go. Yeah. Not that you're not to a degree now, but I was training like 5-6 times a week, sometimes twice a day, because you know, I think you've got to be strong mentally and physically, and you're pushing your body to the limit, and sleep deprivation and everything else, and you've got to do what you've got to do at the end of the day. But I think I just caught it before I was a bit too wiped out, you know. So it started to take its toll. I was just, you know, constantly feeling tired. So at that point, it's like, now, you know, this has got to change now. If I can't function at a decent level, then, you know, we're going to be in a bit of a problem here. So particularly the last sort of 4 or 5 years of concentrating more on making sure the diet's right, you know, keeping up with the training, but adapting the training, you know, and just adapting for the lifestyle and trying to get that balance right. You know, still, like I say, work in progress, but we're definitely getting there. You know, making sure you're reading and, you know, you're just up to speed, and still loads of things you can do. Bang into the cold water therapy, you know, I've done a lot of that over the last few years, and again, sort of that health and well-being is super important, massively.
And in terms of like the personal development, the reading the books, the business coaches, mentors, what do you have on that front? Anything kind of set in stone, or?
At the minute, no, I'm kind of just floating between, you know, reading stuff. We've worked with a number of different sort of fractional advisors over the years, more formal advisors. I mean, this year for us now is going to be a key one, set formal advisory board, you know, again, to support that next scale and growth of the business. You know, people need to know it's not just self and Al, because we aren't accountable to anyone, although we are pretty good and we're not too reckless. But it's good to have that accountability, you know, and have someone there who can kind of call you out on some of the decisions that's a big one for us. But I just love reading. I'm always looking at, you know, follow me. I've just read Grant Cardone's book, for anyone who knows him. He's a sales and marketing guy, American guy, 10X.
Okay.
His book's called the 10X, what's it called, 10X program or something.
Okay.
It's good, it's good to look at other people's way of thinking, you know, because you can get so bogged down in the day-to-day stuff, you don't come up for air, and it's very important, you know, to have that strategic time to be able to just think about stuff and reflect.
And do you tend to do, I know it's quite a specific question, but that kind of stuff, the reading, do you tend to do that in your own time, evenings, weekends, or actually do you do that in the normal course of the week because justifiably it is work? Because I sometimes, I think I can't read a book because it's not work, and it's like, are you kidding me? There's so much stuff that I'm learning that I can implement, but it still doesn't feel quite right to do that. Other than if it's an evening or weekend almost.
Yeah, get what you mean. Yeah, to be fair, probably, I'm evenings and weekends on the books. But like 3 years ago, I did a speed reading course because I thought, right, I need to be able to read quicker. I'm all about hacks, everything, whether it's health or like whatever it might be. So I've increased my reading quite significantly, and it does help massively.
So what's speed reading? I've never even heard of this before. Go on.
Oh, it's the future, I'm telling you. It's just a technique of reading quicker, as it sounds.
Right.
And being able to, it even goes down to how you peripherally look at a page of text.
Okay.
You know, and sub-vocalising, so you don't, probably when you're reading in your head, aren't you?
Yeah.
So not doing that, because that's slowing you down from reading. And you can start by just having like a pen or a pencil and you're just
highlighting and stuff.
Tracing the words. So there's lots of little hacks that can just improve it.
Interesting. I've never heard of that as a concept. Although having said that, if I think about when I read a book, I often do similar to what you're talking about. I'm almost kind of a bit ahead, and I do have to highlight all my notes because otherwise it just doesn't go in. Yeah. Interesting. Best book you've read?
Oh, I've read so many, honestly. I'm trying to think what I've read recently. That 10X book was really good by Grant Cardone. There's another one by Benjamin Hardy that was called Future Self.
Okay.
So again, it's looking at the future and not looking at, you know, dwelling too much on the past and creating that future self. You know, if you've got a really good future self, you're going to gravitate towards it. That came from it. I've been on a coaching program called Strategic Coach, which is more geared around the entrepreneur, not your business. So it's about how you
as an individual.
Yeah, and the systems and processes for it. And that guy, Benjamin Hardy, is in one of the American groups, and he wrote the book with the founder of Strategic Coach, and that was a good read. But I'm always reading stuff. I forget what I've read.
Okay, interesting. We've just started a book club internally, actually, with the team.
Yeah, we were talking about that because there's a few books that like the guys to read.
That they'll really benefit from. Yeah. Okay, interesting. So we touched on it a little bit to do with staff, but again, people who are either running businesses, lots of similar challenges that owner-managers face, aren't there? Or if someone's looking at starting up, what are the kind of key tips? Whether they're things that you've done wrong and you'd have done right if you had your time again, or just key tips for someone starting out that you think that'd be really good advice for someone to hear. We've obviously had the recruitment side of it. What else would you say?
Again, hindsight, wonderful thing, isn't it? Because I think anyone who starts a business up, if you think if we're going to start it again, you definitely get there
100%,
quicker.
Yeah.
You know, because neither myself or Al come from a corporate background. You know, we've had jobs and worked for people, but being entrepreneurial, didn't have that corporate experience, and when it comes to systems and processes, that's like holy water to the devil. Yeah. You know, so I think from our point of view, from an operation and execution point of view, from starting a business again, you would personally, I would bring that in a lot earlier. We still haven't got it in now, madly enough, but that's going to be one of the next big hires at some point in the year.
So that infrastructure almost.
Infrastructure, you know, because again, going back to the system and problem, it's just not interesting, is it really, to a founder and a visionary of a business, but it's critical to the success of the business at the same time, you know, and again, outlining sort of those key roles and responsibilities that you need within the business. And I'm not saying it can design an org structure from day one, but at least have a goal in mind with it. And
like a blueprint almost.
Yeah, and plan a bit more into the future. You know, for us, we just started with an idea and turning over money. That was the goal really, and just see where we could go with it. It's only been recently that we've been looking at the mission and the vision, and that's some of the stuff that's up here in this room. At the moment, in the boardroom, we've been working on that over the last few months, because you've got to bring everyone on for the journey, and I think that's what maybe didn't do early on. We were just running at stuff and running at ideas,
money,
and not bringing the team on that journey with us, so they're like, well, what we're doing now, you know, it felt like you were sort of running around from one thing to the next.
Yeah.
So that's important, you know, if you can create a vision or a North Star that everyone can relate to and go, right, that's why I'm getting up this morning, and that's why we're doing what we're doing, otherwise it feels a bit fragmented.
Yeah.
And you only go through that as part of growing pains, especially the way we've done it over the last 10 years. And even though we've been at it 10 years, it feels like because of everything that's going on in the energy efficiency sector and retrofit at the moment, we're like back at the start almost.
Right, okay.
So we've redeveloped all our solutions over the last 18 months, and it does feel like, right, we're going again now.
Yeah.
Which is great.
With all the knowledge that you've got and
the
the stuff in place. So kind of common vision, I totally agree with all of that. So everyone knows what the end goal is, they understand their role in it, connection to it, purpose, get all of that. And I think the part about almost recognising your strengths and weaknesses, like you were saying, like, and I fully get that around ideas. I think I thought, and I am organised and structured, but I think I thought I was really process focused, and actually I'm kind of realising that love the idea, but I've got the idea and then I just want the outcome, not necessarily the bit about how we implement it. And I think that's absolutely massive, isn't it, in order to scale and continue to grow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's some really good stuff. So the point of this podcast is to showcase great businesses. And culture's obviously a big part of that, and you've touched on it a little bit. So now, as you look at EcoServ, as it's kind of gone through its 10 years, what are kind of the things that you can hang your hat on that you think this is what makes EcoServ a great business, and why people want to work here, stay here, customers want to work with you? What are the key things you would kind of, I guess, just think that makes that great business, I guess?
I would like to think that we think differently.
Okay.
And that was how we started the business, with a passion to deliver on an idea. You know, we're an innovative bunch of people.
So a bit of a disruptor.
Yeah, I think you can call it. It's a bit cliche, isn't it?
But
definitely, it does feel like that, because we're constantly facing problems in the industry and having to come up with solutions, because it's so, again, heavily regulated.
Yeah.
There's constant barriers being put into place by government schemes, by administrators, and then our customers come to us and like, well, what can we do? You know, and then we look at, well, can we build that into a process? Can we adapt a platform to deal with that? And that's the bit we all really enjoy, hopefully, is that problem solving piece, and then having the right people to help you with that problem solving piece. But it's having the right mix of people, isn't it? The ones who've got the ideas, the ones who can then question the ideas, they're the ones who can execute on the ideas, and getting everyone aligned to that vision. Yeah. That's the exciting bit for me. Yeah. And kind of the profit is a byproduct of all that. If you can get the team right, and everyone's again aligned, and we're all working on a common vision, and we're all bought into what we're doing, then everything else kind of just
looks after itself.
Yeah, it just looks after itself.
Yeah.
It's challenging at the moment, because, you know, from an external point of view, we've got a lot of policy changes, we've got massive push towards energy efficiency in the UK, well, globally as well. To be fair, it's not just the UK. You've then got external cost of living issues and rising costs of everything, so it's difficult times, and you've got to really keep the team, you know, engaged and bought in, because it might not just be work issues that are happening, it might be external problems as well. So it's how can we, you know, work together to solve problems, not just for the customers, but if we're having our own problems as well. Yeah. Again, all that sounds a bit cliche, but like a team of crack commandos, aren't we, with the business? You know, it's like going to war every day. You know, we're all going to work together and be comfortable working together, but also be comfortable having uncomfortable conversations. We've all got to challenge each other, haven't we? Yeah. It's no point blowing smoke up each other's backsides and thinking everything's great. You know, it's the good, the bad, and the ugly, isn't it? Yeah. No, totally. So, what does the future look like for EcoServ? What does the next couple of years look like? It's kind of all up on
It's all around me, isn't it? I've not read any of it.
we brought someone in to facilitate. We use OKRs, which are objectives and key results. Yes. Which a lot of tech companies seem to use, because it's quite an organised way of prioritising what you need to do, but aligning it then to a broader vision. So we've been working on that 3 to 5 year vision now over the next, that we're going to deliver on quarter by quarter, and just breaking it down. So for us, it's like, what's the North Star? Where do we want to be? We're in this compliance market, if you will, and that's only going to grow and grow over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So we're trying to benchmark like a line in the sand that everyone can go, right, okay, well that's what we're gravitating towards. So as a team we came up with the sales force of the global compliance market. So again, it's like everyone knows who Salesforce is, you know, a multi-billion pound company. You think of a sales CRM, you think of Salesforce. For us, you think of compliance, you think of EcoServe. At the moment we're playing in this quite niche market, which is energy efficiency, but at the end of the day we're compliance and workflow management.
So could you broaden that into other sectors?
Yeah, exactly. So again, let's wind it back. This is what this does. It gives you that hopper of, right, this is what we're going to do, and then you're winding it back then into 90-day sprints, you know, 90-day executables. So that's been good because that again aligns everyone. Everyone knows, right, okay, well I can relate to that, understand now what we're doing. And then each day you can think, well, is what I'm doing today contributing?
Getting you nearer to that.
Getting you nearer to that goal, because you can all be busy. But we're busy doing the right stuff. You know.
And I guess you may or may not want to answer this question, but when a lot of business owners set up a company, certainly when we set Floor up, there's this noise around 3 to 5 years and then you sell. Well, first of all, if it was that easy, everybody would be doing it, isn't it? Do you have, I know you've got your 3 to 5 year vision, can you kind of foresee a point where you wouldn't be kind of involved in the business, or are you still very much in it and want to see what you can do with it?
Still a bit too exciting to answer that one, because we've had that question since day one. It's like, what's the plan, what's the exit plan? There isn't really an exit plan at the moment. We're still enjoying what we're doing, and we're still out solving problems, which is why we started the business. So there might be a change in role, you know, as we go on into a more strategic position within the business. But at the moment, that's the plan, you know, and we're going to see how we can deliver on that plan. We could look for other options. Who knows at the minute? We're just focused on, again, getting those basics right. And this is the first quarter we've had someone facilitate this process, so it's been good that someone else has come in and helped us with that, because when we've attempted to implement processes in other people's systems before, you get to a level with it where you're trying to implement someone else's system, so you can only go so far with it, whereas this time now we're all bought in, we're all engaged with this, and you know, we're going to do our first quarter of this full process ends at the end of this month, then we'll review that and then we're off again. So
exciting.
Quarter at a time at the moment, but at least with a bit of a North Star.
You know where you want to get to. But again, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are wide the same. If you know you can increase market share, or there's more markets you can go into, or whatever, almost why would you not want to do that? It just makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. We know there's a good market cap to go at, and it's enormous over the next few years. You know, there's 2 really clear benchmarks for the UK: 2030, massive reduction in energy usage in dwellings, and then 2050 net zero carbon. How we're going to get to that is another question. But again, that's a bit of a North Star, isn't it, for the government to achieve? So I feel like we're in the right space, and regardless of where we are in this economic downturn at the moment, the energy efficiency sector has always done quite well.
Pretty robust.
In an economic downturn, because it's job creation, it's feel good, and it stimulates the economy.
Fab.
Not that anything's recession-proof.
No, but there are some sectors more robust than others, and in fairness, usually recruitment is the top one, or one of the top ones to go in a recession. But we're experiencing a bit of a different recession than usual, aren't we, with unemployment being so low. But no, that's really interesting. Going to be excited to see what you do in the next few years, and hopefully we can continue to support you with that journey as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Fab, good stuff. Thank you very much for your time, appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Claire.